Okay, so let's set the scene. We are dropping into one of the most intense weeks in human history, Jesus' final week in Jerusalem. You can just feel the tension in the air. Everywhere he goes, these powerful groups are lining up, ready to challenge his authority, trying to back him into a corner in front of everybody. This isn't just some friendly debate. We're talking about a series of high-stakes public showdowns, and everyone is watching. Seriously, think about it. A question that's so perfectly worded that any answer you give is the wrong one. That is exactly what we're about to witness here. This chapter, Matthew 22, is like a masterclass in psychological chess, with Jesus' opponents setting up these incredibly intricate verbal traps. So let's dive in and break down how he just masterfully dismantles every single one. Now here's what's so brilliant. Before his enemies can even get a word in, before they can spring their first trap, Jesus goes on the offensive. He tells a story, a parable, that ends up being this powerful, preemptive answer to the very challenges he knows are just moments away. So the story starts out pretty simple. You've got a king who represents God, and he's throwing the biggest party imaginable for his son. The invitations have already gone out, people have RSVP'd yes, this is just the final call, the hey, dinner's ready announcement. But the response, it's just bizarre. They're just not willing to come. This incredible, gracious, royal invitation gets a total cold shoulder. And this is where the rejection just escalates, and fast. It goes from just simple indifference, I'm too busy with my farm, I'm too busy with my business, to outright violent hostility. They don't just ignore the king's messengers, they attack them, they humiliate them, and they kill them. This isn't just a story, right? It's a mirror reflecting the tragic history of how God's prophets had been treated for centuries. The refusal isn't passive anymore, it's become deadly. But check out the king's response. This is wild. He doesn't cancel the party. Instead, he just throws the doors wide open. The invitation now goes out to literally everyone, everywhere. People from the street corners, the people nobody ever notices. The verse says both good and evil. And just like that, the wedding hall is packed with a crowd that nobody, especially the first group of guests, would have ever expected. It's just this radical picture of grace. There is one final twist, though. The king is walking through the hall, and he sees a guest who isn't wearing the proper wedding clothes, and he hasn't thrown out. Now, this isn't about some fancy dress code. The wedding garment is a symbol. It represents the inner change, the righteousness that comes from accepting the king's incredible invitation. The point is, it's not enough to just walk in the door. The invitation is meant to transform you from the inside out. So, with that parable still hanging heavy in the air, the first group of challengers makes their move. And it's this strange alliance of the Pharisees, who were the super strict religious guys, and the Herodians, who were basically political supporters of Rome. Total opposites, but they team up for one reason: to spring the perfect political trap on Jesus. I mean, you have to admit, this question is brilliant. It's a political minefield. The poll tax was this hated symbol of Roman rule. So if Jesus says, yes, pay the tax, he looks like a traitor to his own people and loses all credibility with the crowds. But if he says, no, don't pay it, the Herodians have got him. They can run straight to the Roman governor and accuse him of treason. It is the definition of a no-win situation. Jesus doesn't miss a beat. He immediately calls them out on it. He sees right through their fake flattery and calls them hypocrites. And then he does something so clever. He makes them produce the coin. The moment they pull out that denarius, a coin with Caesar's image on it, an image of a man who claimed to be a god, they've already shown they're participating in Caesar's system. They literally hand him the evidence that will dismantle their own trap. And his answer? It is just genius. He completely sidesteps their trap. He's like, look, the coin has Caesar's face on it. Fine, give it back to him. You have responsibilities as a citizen. But, and this is the part that changes everything, he adds, give to God the things that belong to God. And what belongs to God? Well, you do. You're made in his image. So your ultimate allegiance, your very self, belongs to God. It's a timeless principle for how to live with one foot in this world and one in the kingdom of God. So he's just masterfully shut down the political plotters, and boom, another group steps up. This time it's the Sadducees. Now these guys were the theological skeptics of the day. Their big thing was they did not believe in a resurrection from the dead. So they come forward with what they think is this foolproof riddle designed to make the whole idea of a resurrection look completely ridiculous.
They lay out this super elaborate, almost absurd scenario based on an Old Testament law where a woman ends up marrying 7 brothers, one after the other, because they keep dying. Their big gotcha question is, so in the resurrection, who's she married to, all 7 of them? They're trying to use earthly logic to make a spiritual reality seem chaotic and impossible. Jesus just cuts right to the heart of their problem with absolute precision. He tells them their whole argument is based on 2 huge mistakes. You do not know either the scriptures or the power of God. See, their first error was assuming that the afterlife is just, well, this life, but continued, same rules. But Jesus explains the reality is totally different. People will be like the angels, and earthly things like marriage just won't exist in the same way. Their second error, they completely underestimated the power of God to create a new kind of existence. And then he delivers the knockout punch, using a verse from their books, the part of the Bible they actually accepted. He reminds them of when God spoke to Moses from the burning bush, centuries after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died. God didn't say, I was the God of Abraham. He said, I am the God of Abraham. That present tense verb, am, changes everything. It proves a current, ongoing, living relationship. God is the God of the living, not the dead. Checkmate.
Okay, so Jesus has now silenced both the political and the theological experts. The Pharisees huddle up and try it one last time. One of them, a lawyer, an expert in religious law, steps up. But this feels a little different. He seems to be asking a genuine question, trying to cut through hundreds of years of rules and regulations to find out what's the bottom line? What's the one thing that matters most? And Jesus' answer is just profound in its simplicity. He boils it all down to 2 things that are really 2 sides of the very same coin. First, love God with everything you have, your heart, your soul, your mind, your entire being. And the second is just like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he says that everything, all the law, all the prophets, the entire Old Testament, it all hangs on these 2 simple, powerful commands. And now, after flawlessly navigating every single trap and test they threw at him, Jesus completely flips the script. It's his turn to ask a question. He asks them, what do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he? They give the standard answer. He's the son of David. Then Jesus quotes a psalm where King David himself calls his future descendant, my Lord. And the question is just devastatingly simple. How can your own son also be your Lord? He leaves them totally speechless, pointing to a much deeper truth about who the Messiah is, that he's both fully human and fully divine. So, after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this? Let's quickly break it down. First, God's invitation to his party is incredibly generous and it's open to everybody. But it's not a casual thing. It calls for a real, genuine change of heart. Second, we all live with dual citizenship. We have real duties to our government and our society, but our highest, ultimate loyalty is always to God. Third, a lot of our biggest mistakes and wrong ideas about faith come from a shallow understanding of what the Bible actually says and who God really is. And finally, when you strip everything else away, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. That's the core of it all. You see, through every one of these traps and tests, Jesus wasn't just giving clever answers to win an argument. He was revealing the very heart and priorities of God. He exposed hypocrisy, he corrected deep-seated errors, and he clarified what truly matters for all time. So as we wrap this up, the real question isn't just about what they learned that day. It's about us. What is his wisdom? What are his answers revealing to you right now?